50 years, SCORE has served as America's premier source of free and confidential business mentoring and education as a resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration, the SBA, which Virginia is part of. SCORE has helped more than 11 million entrepreneurs through mentoring, workshops, and educational resources since 1964. We have over 300 chapters nationwide with a wealth of knowledge and experience to share and help you succeed in business. For more information or to get your mentoring, you can go to greaterrochester.score.org. In there, you can search by your zip code, and locally somebody will be able to get back to you. So I would like to pass this on to Virginia Smith. She's going to be discussing Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Thank you for pulling that up.
All right. All right.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. So Kristen and Tamara, thank you so much for obviously the partnership with SCORE. We appreciate you. And to get the word out on this, I know this was a last minute presentation and webinar, but we thank you for organizing it and obviously for the participants on here. As we go through, please feel free to ask chat questions. I will intersperse some additional information from questions that I get from small business owners. This is a new program and we are rolling out webinars at least once a day to get you this information, because it's really important that when the electronic portal opens to apply, that you are ready. So that's what we're doing. So just kind of what is it? The Restaurant Revitalization Fund was created on March 11th through public law. And there's about $28.6 billion that's authorized for the program. And we're going to run it until the money is over. Once you receive the funds, you can use them up to March 11th, 2023. So that's the term of the program itself. So who's eligible to apply for a Restaurant Revitalization Fund? So number one, this program is going to be running through SBA. You will be working through our website. So you won't go to a lender, you're going to go directly through SBA and you're going to apply electronically. Eligible businesses are those who are not permanently closed and include businesses where the public assembles for the primary purpose of being served food or drink. So restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts, caterers, bars, saloons, lounges, taverns, snacks, non-alcoholic beverage bars. So those are sort of the main ones that don't have asterisks. The ones that have asterisks, which are bakeries, brew pubs, tasting rooms, tap rooms, breweries and microbreweries, wineries and distilleries, and inns, those all have asterisks, because what we want to make sure of is that 33% of your gross receipts come from on-site sales. Many of our businesses had to pivot during COVID. So they had to go to wholesale or work out some other arrangements. And so what we want to make sure of for this program, even if you had to pivot at some point, that 33% of your sales are from on-site receipts. So this is who is eligible. I want to go back to you. So a lot of the questions I'm having is, well, I own a gym and now I serve smoothies and sandwiches. Am I eligible? No, because your primary purpose is being a gym. It's not serving food or drink. Okay, so again, that's sort of what we fall back to. Another question is, I'm closed because the governor said for me to be, or I'm closed because of personal COVID issues, as long as it's a temporary closure. So when you receive these funds, the funds are to be used on things that you need to run your business. If your business is, once you receive the funds, you have to start opening. That's the key, as long as you're not permanently closed. SBA is for this program, as far as qualifications for the amount of money, we will provide up to $5 million per location or a minimum of $1,000. So that's sort of the general amount. So how is this different from our other programs? So in our other programs, you had to be registered in sam.gov or you all needed a DUNS or a cage identifier. If you don't know what that means, that's fine, because you do not need those for this program. So no worries about those numbers. However, if you are one of our friends that holds a green card, you must have a valid, unexpired ITIN number. If that applies to you, please make sure that it's valid and not expired. If it is expired, you need to take care of that before you will be eligible for this program. So again, that's only for our small business owners who are not permanent citizens. There we go. Okay, who is not eligible? If you're a state or local government operated business, if you own more than 20 locations as of March 13th, this is not about if you own 20 restaurants. This is about if you own 20 business locations. So let's say you own 3 restaurants and 18 financial service companies. You are not eligible because you own 21 different locations. All right. So that's going to be key, is how many locations do you own? If you have a pending application or have received a shuttered venue operator grant, you are not eligible for this program. If you're a publicly traded company, again, if you're permanently closed, which I talked about earlier, if you're a nonprofit, or you're only eligible for less than $1,000, it's not going to happen. So a nonprofit, this is some questions I'm getting. I'm a church and we do a fish fry on Friday, or I'm an American Legion and we do three separate food services a week. Am I eligible? No, you're a nonprofit, and nonprofits are not eligible for this program. So who is eligible? Basically, any form of organization is eligible. The key with these asterisks is if you're a B corporation, you're going to select a C or an S corp on the application, depending on how you're taxed. So what you want to do is you want to refer back to your taxes, see where you are, and if you're self-employed versus a sole proprietor, all of those details are going to be provided on your tax forms. All right, franchises. Franchises are eligible. If you are a franchise owner, just make sure that your franchise agreement has been approved by SBA and is on our franchise directory. That's easy. It's sba.gov/franchise directory. When you go into the application portal, you'll be able to pull up your franchise number if you don't have it. If your franchise is not already approved by SBA, we do have a process for getting those applications, or excuse me, those franchise agreements through our system, and it's via the email there, or you can always contact me if it's not on the registry. All right, so bankruptcy. This is another question I've been getting. If you are currently operating under an approved plan of reorganization in an 11, 12, or 13 bankruptcy, you are eligible. All right. So you have to be in an approved plan of reorganization. If you are not, so again, if you're permanently closed, or if you filed a 7 liquidation bankruptcy, or a 7, 11, 12, or 13 that has not been approved for reorganization, you are not eligible for this program. Again, I want to talk about permanently closed businesses. That does not include businesses who temporarily close their doors due to state or local restrictions or other pandemic causes, but they're still in operation, or you will be reopening. All right, how does this impact our other programs? If you applied for a PPP loan, it's going to be subtracted from your RRF amount. So if you have applied for a PPP and you're already in that process, or you've been approved, you are good to go. What does not work is if you are applying for or have received the shuttered venue operator grant, because again, you can't have a restaurant revitalization fund with a shuttered venue operator grant, but yes, you can have a PPP. You are going to have to attest that the economic uncertainties make the funding request necessary to support your ongoing or anticipated operations. That's just going to be right on the website. So this is really important, these things, the sources and that you're able to use for these funds, it's very extensive. So when you get the money, it's going to go right into your bank account, and you're gonna have the whole amount of money in your account. You can spend it on payroll, utilities, maintenance, supplies, food and beverage expenses, your supplier costs. If you owe your suppliers for 3 months, you can pay them. Business operating expenses, so your insurances, your marketing, your fees, your licenses, any legal things, your point of sale equipment. If you want to spend some of this money on marketing, absolutely, you can spend the money on marketing. There's nothing that says you have to spend a certain amount of funds on each of these things. You truly have the ability to use the funds as long as it's under these use of funds as you see fit. If you were a business that constructed some outdoor seating because of COVID, you can absolutely use these funds for whatever that entailed, whether it was concrete or tables or linens or gas or electric or whatever you needed for that outdoor seating. What's not eligible is if you were just expanding your location, that's not eligible, but the outdoor seating is. And then as far as your business debt, payment on your business loans is eligible. You can't prepay. So if you receive the funds in May, you can pay your May bills, but you would not be able to pay your June. If you still have money left in June, you could pay your June bills, but you can spend it on money. You just can't prepay anything. I also want to reiterate all of the information that I'm telling you is on our website, restaurants.sba.gov. This PowerPoint is just a pretty way to put it together for you, but all the information is online. So when do you have to use the funds by? Your funds have to be on expenses that were incurred between February 15th, 2020 and March 11th, 2023. If you permanently close while you still have funds in your account, SBA will ask you to repay the money that you have not yet spent. All right, what do you have to do when you use the funds? We are going to ask you to report to us how you use the funds. We're going to ask for a detailed expenditure report. We're going to ask for it annually to make sure that you have spent them appropriately on the use of funds. We don't have a spreadsheet. We don't have a format that we're going to be asking you for that. We anticipate it's going to be through the electronic portal, but you may want to create your own tracking mechanism. I've had business owners ask me, should I create a different checking account? Should I create a different form in QuickBooks? However it is that you'd like to report to us that is comprehensive, you want to make sure that you develop that in the beginning so that you can easily update the reporting function within the system. Okay, so now we're going to be getting into a little of the nitty gritty. And again, this is all going to be online. So my biggest recommendation to you is when you are ready to apply, you sit down with all of your financial documentation, and I'm going to go through what you need, and you make sure that your numbers match with what you're putting in the system. Because if your numbers don't match, it's going to require an additional set of eyes to review your application. And any additional set of eyes to review your application is simply going to add more time to your process. And you want to make sure that your application can go as smoothly as possible. So make sure that you have your financial documents with you when you apply, and make sure that whatever number you're putting in matches something in your financials. So there's 3 ways to calculate this loan. The first is if you were in operation prior to or on January 2019, it's very simply, what are your gross receipts from 2019 minus your gross receipts from 2020 minus your PPP amount? That's your amount. Very simple. So calculation 1, businesses who were in business prior to January 2019. Calculation 2, these are for our friends who only operated their business in part of 2019. So if it's part of 2019, it is average monthly gross receipts times 12 minus your 2020 gross receipts minus PPP loan amount. So again, if you were in business only through part of 2019, we're going to ask you to average your monthly gross receipts times 12 minus your 2020 minus your PPP. So now we have calculation number 3. So these are people who were in business on or before January 2020 or through March 20th. And this also means some of our restaurants or our food services who have just had some expenses but haven't yet opened their doors, because many of you have had to start building up your inventory, pay rent, etc. So you may not have yet opened, but you have incurred expenses. What we're going to ask you to do is, again, these are businesses in 2020 through now. What is your total amount on eligible expenses minus your gross receipts, minus your PPP loan amounts? So if you were in business in 2019, it's 2019 minus 2020 minus your gross receipts. If you were in business part of 2019, you can use the calculation of averaging your gross receipts, or you can use this one. And then if you've been in operations in 2020 or haven't opened your doors, but were spending money prior to March 10th of this year, it's your total amount spent on your expenses minus your gross receipts minus your PPP loan amounts. And again, all of these things are going to be online, so you'll be able to walk through that. Okay, what's nice about this is we are excluding from your gross receipts any of your PPP money, any money that you received from the debt relief from SBA. That's what that Section 1112 payments are. If you received an idle loan or a cash advance, any state or local business grants, or any Randolph-Shepard Act financial relief and restoration payments. All of those things you do not need to include in your gross receipts. So the result should be that you have additional funds allowed. Okay, how are you going to apply? You're going to apply at restaurants.sba.gov. It is not open yet, but I promise you when it is open, we will get the word out. You can also talk to your point of sale vendor. Some of you use Clover and Toast and some other point of sale softwares. Talk to them. They're all working with us, but they're working with us in different ways. They could be working with us where you apply directly through them. They could be working with us because you can upload your gross receipts. So everybody's doing it a little differently, but you should contact, if you have a POS, you should contact them to see what they're doing. Some of our restaurant or some of our food and beverage service places do not have access to the internet, whether they're in a rural area or it's spotty. We will accept applications over the phone, telephonically. We do recommend that if you can, to go to your local library or some other hotspot to apply. But if you simply can't, we are going to be accepting telephonic applications. Okay, what documents do you need? First and foremost, you're going to have an application that's going to be on our platform. We are going to ask you to sign off on what's called an IRS form 4506T. That is essentially a form that the IRS says, yes, they did file their taxes, and yes, we agree with what they told you, but you're going to be able to do that online. Sitting next to you, you're going to want your gross receipt documentation, your business tax returns, your bank statements, anything externally or internally prepared financial statements, your point of sale reports, anything that's going to help you document your gross receipts. Again, we're also going to ask for the 3 months of bank statements. Why is that? We want to make sure that we are getting you the right money. So many times in our system, we've noticed that people just miskey their bank statement or their bank account numbers. We want to make sure that you're providing the correct bank accounts. So we're going to ask you for 3 months of bank statements. So when you calculate your 2020 gross receipts, we would prefer a federal tax return or your point of sale report, but some of you may not have filed your taxes yet. And if that's the case, we will accept an externally or internally prepared financial statements, such as your income statements or your profit and loss. Make sure that they're signed and dated by your for accuracy. Okay, sorry for the very small font here, but these are for our businesses who were only in business part of 2020 or 2021, or you haven't opened your doors yet. Why this is a little smaller is because it's the same thing we asked for before, but you guys have to document how you spent your expenses. Especially if you haven't opened your doors yet, we want to know what you spent your money on that we're going to be reimbursing you for. So that's details here, such as payroll documentation, your outdoor seating expenditures, your lender loan statements, if you have those. So again, if you have recently opened your doors or still looking at doing that, we're going to ask you for documentation of your expenses. So the other thing is, for those of you who have to prove your on-site sales, so your brew pubs, our tasting rooms, breweries, wineries, distilleries, bakeries, the inns, we are going to ask for additional documentation about your on-site sales, and they can include tax and trade bureau forms, any state or local form that you have filed, anything that you have internally, as long as you can show that at least 33% of your gross receipts were for on-site sales of food and beverage. How do you get help? We're here to help you. It's virginia.smith@sba.gov. We also have a center hotline. I'm going to be memorizing this number to make sure that we can get you to the right place. If you are not English as your first language, or someone you know will need help in a different language than English, I believe we'll have up to 10 languages available on the center hotline for you to talk to. It's only for Restaurant Revitalization Fund questions, the 844 number. So best practices. Please, please, please make sure that you have as much completed documentation with you when you apply. Again, it's going to be electronic. We're going to ask you to upload the documents, but you want to make sure all your numbers match. Leverage your resources. While it's not required, if you have a CPA or an accounting professional to make sure that your numbers match, please use them. If you make a mistake, we are not going to be able to do it electronically to change that. You're actually going to have to call that 844 number in order to fix it. So do your best to take your time with the application. If you still intend to apply for a PPP loan, please finish that first to make sure that everything is accurate before the RRF. All right, there is a pilot period. So right now we are in the middle of the pilot period. So what does that mean, Virginia? We want to make sure that this electronic application does not crash and burn. We want to make sure that it works appropriately for the participants. So we have opened it up to a small number of individual businesses just to test it. They are not going to be getting loans approved, but they're testing the system to make sure that there aren't any mistakes that we might be missing, or red flags that the system isn't talking to something else. So we are currently testing it. When it is open, we will open to everyone. So when the application opens up, everyone can apply. However, during the first 21 days, we are only going to be reviewing applications for businesses owned by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged applications. After that 21-day priority period is done, we will process all the rest of the applications until the program funds are exhausted. So what's a priority group? A small business concern that is at least 51% owned, and the management and daily business operations of the applicant are controlled by one or more individuals who are either women, veteran, or socially and economically disadvantaged. You self-certify on the application that you meet these eligibility criteria. So for example, you have 5 owners, you each own 20%, 2 are veterans, and 1 is socially or economically disadvantaged. That's 60%. Therefore, you meet the 51% criteria for the priority group. So you can self-certify. So let's just read this. It's the easiest way for me to tell you what a socially or economically disadvantaged individual is. A socially disadvantaged individual are those who have been subject to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. Individuals who are members of the following group are presumed to be socially disadvantaged: Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, or subcontinent Asian Americans. Economically disadvantaged individuals are those socially disadvantaged individuals whose ability to compete in a free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital and credit opportunities as compared to others in the same business area who are not socially disadvantaged. So these again are self-certifications that you're going to make on the website. If I had a business call me the other day who said, in 2019, my husband owned the business, but in 2020, we switched it so that I now own 51% of the business. Okay, you qualify because your current ownership is 51% woman-owned business. However, if an entity after March 11th, which is when the law was signed, reorganized for the purpose of qualifying for the priority period, that will result in an automatic disqualification of the award. So just a heads up on that. There are some funding set asides. There's $5 billion set aside if the gross receipts of the application are not more than 500,000. There's an additional $4 billion set aside if the gross receipts were between 500,000 and 1.5 million. And then there's 500 million set aside if the gross receipts were not more than 50,000. The SBA reserves the right to reallocate these funds, but that's how the current functionality will be working. Okay, so that's all I have. Kristen and Tamara, I can look at the chat real quick. It looks like you just put emails in there. This specific program that we're talking about right now is just for businesses who serve food or beverages. They don't necessarily have to be a restaurant, but that's what the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is for. So if I go back the slide that tells us, here we go. So again, it's where public or patrons assemble for the primary purpose of being served food or drink.
Yeah, there really aren't any other questions. I think you answered that. But can you tell people if they still want to apply for any of these loans, whether it's the Restaurant Revitalization Fund or any of the other SBA programs, where do they go to apply and how do they know they qualify?
Okay, so Restaurant Revitalization Fund, we just are talking about that today. That's going to be at restaurant.sba.gov, which is in the chat function, and it's not open yet. So we just went through, if you qualify, what that would make sense for. When it's open, we'll do that. The PPP loan, that is for businesses who are looking to help cover their payroll. So you do have to be in business, and you would apply to your local bank or credit union for that. That application ends at the end of May. So if you have yet to apply for a first or second draw, please do that by contacting your local lending institution. If you are interested in economic injury disaster loan, those are for people who were in business as of the end of January 2020. That is on SBA.gov's website, and that you would simply search economic injury disaster loan and you would apply through there. So those are the three main programs that SBA is running right now outside of the traditional lending programs.
Great, thanks. And we've got another question. Can some of the money be used for adding on a deck for outdoor seating or for a septic system?
So let's go to the use of proceeds. So construction of outdoor seating is absolutely qualified. What's not qualified is if you were simply expanding your business. But if it has to do with outside construction, yes, it does. If the septic system has to be modified because you are including outdoor seating, that's part of construction costs.
Looks like everybody has all the information they need.
Sweet. So if you don't, feel free to email me there or your SCORE mentor. Tomorrow, I would put that out there as well. Any way that we can get you the information, we will certainly try.
Absolutely. If you guys have a SCORE mentor, reach out to them, ask them the question. If they don't know the answer, they will tell you, and they will contact Virginia and get the answer for you. I do have one last question. They want to know when, they must miss the date. Did you say when will this application be open?
We don't know yet.
Okay. We don't know.
We would anticipate within the next week or so. But as soon as we know, we will absolutely, please make sure that any email from sba.gov does not go to your spam filter. I'm sure the media will be all over it, and I'm sure that SCORE will do a great job getting the word out, but we want to make sure that it doesn't accidentally go to your spam filter. So just make sure sba.gov is not there. And as soon as we know, you will know.
Perfect. And as soon as we get information, we will post what we can on our website, which is greaterrochester.score.org, or our Facebook page, which is SCORE Mentors of Greater Rochester. And if you're on our mailing list, you will get the SBA information for sure. And I think that's it, Virginia. I don't have any other questions.
That's perfect.
So,
I love it. So that just means we did a good job. But again, questions, let us know, or go to the website at restaurants.sba.gov. So I want to thank Kristen and Tamara, and on to the next, whatever we can help, please let us know.
That's great. And thank you everybody for attending today. We appreciate it. And if you need to get in touch with a mentor to walk you through any of these processes and answer any of your questions, please go to greaterrochester.score.org, click on Find a Mentor and put in your zip code or whatever kind of expertise you're looking for. So restaurants, restaurant management, marketing, sales, business planning, whatever it is, and you will get matched with a mentor with the correct expertise for you. Perfect. Thank you very much, everybody. And we hope to see you soon in one of our webinars or as a mentor.
All right, take care. Thanks again.
Thank you.